On today's hot sheet, I'm discussing home price insights from CoreLogic and Zillow's 2024 Home Buyer Trends Report. Today is Tuesday, October the 8th, 2024. I'm Tom Toole, and the hot sheet starts now. Welcome to the Hot Sheet, the industry's only live daily news show on the internet, brought to you exclusively by BAM. The Hot Sheet covers what you need to know about the real estate industry in a 24-hour time period. And we're talking today about CoreLogic's home price insights. We got some great charts we're going to share, and we're also going to go over Zillow's 2024 Home Buyer Trends Report. And there's a lot of interesting data in there you can use in your business to sell more homes, because that's what I like to focus on. That's what you should be focusing on as a real estate agent. So let's jump into the CoreLogic 2024 Home Price Index Report first. And big picture here, home prices rose 3.9% year over year, but declined by 0.1% month over month in the August 2024 report. The forecast predicts a modest 2.3% increase in prices by August 2025, with markets like Miami leading the gains, and places like Provo risking declines. If you look at the heat map here, this is a really good chart, and it showcases a couple things. One, real estate is super local. What we are also seeing is that there's a direct correlation here in places where we see inventory rising and their home price predictions that are going to be happening in 2025. So the red is, the dark red is 7+%, medium reds, 5 to 7, light red 3 to 5. We got light blue 1 to 3, and the dark blue less than 1%. So the Sun Belt, Texas, Florida, places like that where we've seen inventory rise dramatically, even in like Arizona and Nevada and some of the northwestern markets, they are seeing less predicted appreciation. Then you go to like the Northeast specifically. You also see the same in Illinois and in Wisconsin, that you're seeing some expectations of quicker increases in pricing. And that's because inventory hasn't grown in those places. So, you know, when you look at these year over year trends, 3.9%, that's a solid year. It's not pandemic hot. This is normal. This is what to expect pre-pandemic, which I like. It's a good sign that the market is moving in the right direction and stabilizing here. If you look at some of the short-term forecasted price growth, again, 0.1% month over month. That's about right when you're looking at July to August, and August to September. Nothing unexpected there. And, you know, seeing the long-term forecast of 2.3%, that's going to be a super local prediction. So get into these charts and see what's happening in your local market, because if you walk into an appointment and you're saying, hey, prices are supposed to go up 2.3%, and you're in one of the hotter markets, like New Jersey was one of the darker red ones there, Illinois, same thing, you're not going to showcase yourself as the knowledge broker. Now, what we also have here, we have the month over month, year over year forecasts. And again, these are solid numbers. This is pre-pandemic appreciation. This happens consistently year over year. This is what you hope for in a market that's stabilizing, which is what we're heading into in 2025. And when you look at these numbers here, this is what you can share with people. And again, get into your local data in your market. I can't stress this enough. Now, if you look at some of the outlier markets, the metros with the biggest annual home price gains, look at Miami down there, 8.9%. San Diego, 5.1%. Las Vegas, 6.5%. Chicago, Illinois, 6.8%. Washington, D.C., 4.8%. Boston, Massachusetts, 4.7%. L.A., Phoenix. These are the large metro markets, ladies and fellas. This is no surprise here, because they have communities around them where people want to live. And, you know, when you look at what's happened historically before the pandemic, pre-pandemic, these were the markets that were the strongest. So, I mean, that's normally what you see, because they've got jobs, they've got industry, people want to live in these places. The markets at risk, in my view, are some of the fastest growing markets. So there's 5 markets at risk. Bobby, if you could put up that other chart there. And what they did here, they talked about 5 markets at risk of home price decline. So Provo, Utah, very high, over 70% probability of a price decline. Atlanta, very high. Salt Lake City, very high. Palm Bay, and Titusville in Melbourne, down in Florida. Gainesville, also very high. These are places that saw a boom during the pandemic because a lot of people were moving there, and now they're kind of seeing that valley. And that's what happens with these stronger markets like we showed in the previous chart versus some of these up-and-coming markets. This is all very normal. This has happened throughout time because you're not going to see these same peaks and valleys in established marketplaces that you will in some of these growing markets or up-and-coming markets. So the economic context here, something I want to go over, mortgage rate impact. Even though rates dropped in September, we did see rates bump up a lot last week after the jobs report that came out that far exceeded expectations by over 100,000 jobs being added in the month of September. And the high rates that we saw in July and August, they did reduce affordability, which may have suppressed price growth. Right now, we're coming in around like 6.5 are the numbers that we're seeing. So that's a number where, there's some mental pricing there. You get that number below 6, you're going to see some more confidence come back to the market there. There was a quote here from Dr. Selma Hepp, the chief economist at CoreLogic. And I'm just going to read it to you here and we can react. Then we'll get into some of the home buyer trends. While mortgage rates have dropped in recent weeks, August home sales were still high, by still high rates in July and August, which lowered affordability. The combined impact of high prices and high mortgage rates kept a lid on price growth, with annual gains falling to the lowest level in a year and monthly gain falling well below what is typically observed in August. Price gains in August were driven by areas in the Northeast, but brought down by softening markets in Texas and Florida. So what Dr. Hepp is seeing is the same thing we're talking about here, and the data is very clear. And that's what you want to make sure you're going over. If you're in one of these markets that's a little softer, you got to be ready to have those discussions with people. If you're in one of these markets that's not so soft, you want to have those discussions with folks as well, because there's the national news that people hear, and then there's what's going on in your local market. And the knowledge brokers, they know how to interpret that data. So interesting information here from CoreLogic. Not anything earth-shattering, but you got to know this stuff. I mean, if I'm someone trying to boost my real estate knowledge base, build that deep knowledge, I'm studying this stuff 15, 20 minutes a day. I'm watching the hot sheet on a daily basis. I'm looking at my local data in the MLS on a regular basis so you can understand what's happening even in like pockets of your marketplace, right? Where I live, the greater Philadelphia area, the city of Philadelphia operates a lot differently from a market perspective than some of the suburban markets. The condo market operates from a different perspective than single-family home and row homes and those sort of markets. So you want to be able to understand that at a high level. So take this information, dive deeper in your local market, and that's going to help you to be that knowledge broker and that hopefully go-to listing or buyer's agent in your marketplace. So that's what's happening with CoreLogic. I want to pivot next here to the home buyer trends. And, when you look at this data here, if you want access to all these slides, what you'll want to do is sign up for BAMX, right? BAMX, one of the the most badass things out there you can use for your business. It's where you get access to everything from the hot sheet daily downloads, courses, bi-weekly masterminds with the broke agent and Byron to talk about your social media and what's happening in the marketplace, and the BAMX community. You can use the code TOM, T-O-M, that's my first name, for 10% off your subscription. Things like BAM in a box and these content pieces you can put out that are already done for you. There's no thinking involved. You get social media downloads. You get email templates. You get blog posts. You put that stuff out there, that's going to position you as the person to go to in your market. So the promo code's TOM if you want to sign up for BAMX for 10% off. Home buyer trends from Zillow. So Zillow does this consumer housing trends report every year, and there's going to be some just basic information here, and I think this is very insightful. So the typical U.S. home buyer in 2024 is 42 years old, with millennials making up 34% of those buyers. And some of the key trends highlighted here are that 44% there's a 44% share of first-time buyers and a median household income of $97,600 and the growing reliance on down payment assistance. So if you look at the average 2024 home buyer, the median age is 42. The average is 44. I hate the median. I'm a big believer in the average. So the average buyer is 44 years old. 21% of their buyers are in their 20s or younger. 20% are in their 60s or older. And the largest generational group is millennials between the ages of 30 and 44. That's a little debatable on what a millennial is. And that's at 34%. And what I'm seeing here, and this is something you want to look at in your business, that number is very interesting to me because what do people do with that 30 to 44 year age range? They start to have families. They grow their household, right? They might be having kids. They might be having older kids. They need more space. And there's more of these people in the market than ever before because the population is growing. So knowing that's the case, that's typically a great place to try to target in terms of what kind of homes are they buying? Are you calling property owners? Are you prospecting those folks? Because those are the homes that are going to sell. When you look at the region, buyers by region, 43% of all the buyers happen in the South, 23% in the Midwest, 21% in the West, and 13% in the Northeast. If you look at some of the inventory levels across the country, that's no surprise because the Northeast is seeing the lowest inventory out of any of these places. So there's just not as many homes to buy in the Northeast. Not shocking working here. And, that's going to, that's obviously a factor. There have to be homes available to buy for these folks. So, if you're in some of these markets, right, you're in the South where you're seeing the majority of buyers come in, you might need to think about what your business looked like in 2024 and what changes you need to make in 2025. Now, some people, they'll say, well, I need more buyers if they have more buyers here, if we're shifting into a buyer's market with rising inventory. I'd argue you need more listings and need a plan to service a higher number of listings with the same amount of time because buyers are going to look at more properties. So you want to think about these trends as you business plan for 2025. In terms of median household income, $97,600. This is why affordability is a concern. You look at this number here from Zillow. The national median household income is $74,600. So if you look at the median of people that are buying homes, you're seeing a difference of $23,000. That's almost 1/3 of the median for the national income that people are making right now. So that's why affordability is a concern. You're seeing what it's taking just to buy a property right now. 70% of buyers are married and partnered. 15% have been married in the past. 76% of buyer households have one pet. Byron Lazine is not one of those people, by the way. He will never have pets. Hope he's doing okay. That's why I'm here on the show. 64% have a dog. 42% have a cat. You'd be surprised how many people buy a home so they can have a yard for their dog. 43% of households have at least one child. So that's what I'm talking about here. You look at that millennial component, and that's 34%, but even more than that have kids. And we know that kids' diapers are one of those motivators that happen. So it's going to be something you want to watch out for there. And first-time home buyers, 44% of all the people were first-time home buyers, down from 50% in 2023. That's still a big chunk, and that shows you that the lower price points are the stuff that moves, right? There's some agents that they want to, they tell themselves when they're getting started in their career, I only want to focus on the high end. Well, the stuff that moves is the average price point. So you want to be aware of that. Offer contingencies. I found this very interesting. 66% of buyer offers are contingent on a home inspection. So that number is a lot less than where it used to be. So how do you navigate that? How do you handle that as a home buyer? I'd be looking at getting a home inspection before you make an offer. If it's a competitive situation, like a walk and talk inspection. A lot of inspectors will do this for a couple $100. Maybe you've got a trusted contractor that you can bring into a property to avoid that contingency. And this may not be for you, but these are options that are out there. And when you present those options as an agent, you're doing your client a great service so they know what to expect going into these competitive situations. 56% contingent on mortgage approval, 52% contingent on appraisal. That 4% there, that delta exists because of people putting in appraisal gap coverages. And 24% secured a mortgage rate buy down in their offer. That's pretty interesting because that's obviously going to make the home a lot more affordable. So, when it comes to mortgage approval, 56%, that doesn't mean the other 44% were cash offers. You may want to talk to your lender about getting your buyers pre-committed and making sure that they're fully approved subject to an appraisal, right? That's another way to help win offers in a competitive environment. You might want to, talk to folks about maybe they can borrow some money from family members. I mean, that's another option. We've seen that happen a lot. So in terms of the financing, and this is exactly what I'm talking about here, it's a little different, where 94% of home buyers, they were pre-approved for a loan. 32% got pre-approved by 2 or more lenders. 31% got denied for financing once. That's pretty interesting. 48% of mortgage buyers put down less than 20%. So it's amazing to me how few agents understand that there's other options out there and they don't communicate that properly to their clients. So knowing that 48% of buyers are doing less than 20% down, you'd be surprised how few people actually know that. So are you educating folks about lower down payment options? 3% down, 5% down, 10% down, FHA, VA, if that's in your market. These are the things you want to be talking about here. And nearly half of buyers secured mortgages at a rate below 5%, 45%. That means they're buying down rates, which is obviously a good thing. So down payment assistance. 52% of buyers got down payment assistance. So what does that look like? Well, that means maybe borrowing some money from mom and dad, right? We know that boomers control a lot of the world's wealth, 1/8 of the world's wealth. Banks are the most common source of assistance, apparently. And 60% of first-time buyers reported receiving down payment assistance. But you want to present these options to people if they're not able to qualify. Have you talked to anybody in your family? Are you able to get some help there on the down money? That's a great spot to go. In terms of fees and costs, 91% of buyers faced unexpected costs or fees. That is bad business by real estate agents when I see that stat. If you're not going over closing costs with your client at the first meeting and sharing exactly what all this stuff goes, you're not giving them a financial plan to get into the property. One of the best practices there, if that's a concern, is put together a closing cost estimate. Most MLSs can do this for you, by the way. It's very simple to do. And circle the key numbers. Here's your cash to close. Here's your estimated monthly payment. And that will give people a very clear plan. And I know in Pennsylvania, you've got to sign off on closing cost estimates every time you execute an agreement. So I would be going over those fees with people at the initial meeting. 66% surprised by loan origination fees, 42% higher than expected closing costs. That has to do with not using the right lenders and not communicating the right information. So I'd be very specific on that. Here, this talks about like home search, and I think this is pretty interesting here. And then we're gonna, kind of wrap this up. Is that 94% of buyers use online resources when shopping for a home. 50% said their agent was the most helpful resource. What a miss there by real estate agents. Only 50% your agent is the most helpful resource. That means you're not setting the right expectation as an agent. That means there's a lot of bad agents out there. No surprise there. You hear that from people like us all the time. And that's an opportunity to improve. What are you doing to be proactive in your client's search? Are you targeting off-market properties? Are you using things like the magic buyer letter? There's so many opportunities there if only 50% feel like their agent was the most useful resource. And 36% found real estate apps or websites the most helpful. Well, if I'm an agent, I want them coming to my website for their home search, coming directly from me, not going to Zillow or Realtor or one of these other portals where they could get get in touch with somebody else. And there's a lot of off ramps there. So what are you doing to control the search is a big question I've got here. Home characteristics, air conditioning, 83%. See, that is important. I don't blame you. When it gets hot, I want the air on too. Walkability, 62%. 72% prioritize watertight windows, doors, and roofs. 43% avoid homes in flood risk areas. So these are things you want to talk to people about. When you're walking through a home, are you saying, hey, they've got new windows here? Looks like these are some improvements. Are you reviewing the seller's disclosure before you go in? Do you know the local amenities in the communities where you're showing homes? And just basics like, hey, this home has central air. I mean, that stuff, spend a little time prepping for these showings. Know what kind of property you're walking into. That way you can highlight these things. Air conditioning is the number one thing people want in a home in 2024. I mean, I don't disagree with that. That's 83%. 79% price fits within budget. 73% number of bedrooms. 70% size and square footage. 70% private outdoor space. What's interesting here, and as you go down this list, 69% floor plan, increase in value, 68%. Then you see things kind of drop off, like preferred number of bathrooms at 66, garage or off-street parking, ensuite or master bedroom is 65%. And what you're seeing here is then you get down to like kitchen, 57%, preferred finishes, 55%. I'm going to share something with everyone here based on these stats, and this will back this up. And this is a conversion technique for you to talk to buyers. So I'd write this down. There's 4 things you want to focus on as a home buyer: the price, the condition, the location, and the floor plan. That's it. That's what you can focus on. The good news is if you find a home that has the right floor plan, well, it's really expensive to change a floor plan. If you're putting an addition on or the square footage isn't right, that can be very costly for you. So that's why you want to look at the floor plan. If you can make the floor plan work, that can be a big win for you. And the neighborhood you can't change, right? So you can't change the floor plan. You can't change the neighborhood. You're buying into the community and the amenities that are local. So when you focus on those things, you're going to find a home that's going to be a great fit for you long term. Then there's price and condition. So price is something you can at least attempt to negotiate. Can't always negotiate it. The seller's got to agree, but you can attempt to negotiate it, and you can compensate for condition with price. You can always improve the condition pretty easily. And all this data here supports that's what buyers actually want. So when you present that to buyers, all this goes into that initial meeting. Are you giving them the financials? Are you presenting these options to them? All these data points are going to help you create a presentation that's going to win and help you attract more clients. So all that stuff's very critical there. The last things that were extremely important were a walkable neighborhood, sense of community, close to shopping, commute, close to family. They were all 48% and above. Public transportation, 34%. So nothing really new there, but some nuances that from the data, you can actually talk to people what they care about. I found a lot of agents, they worry about like price and fees, and that's what they end up focusing on instead of what the buyer or the seller actually cares about. And when you focus on the person, not the property, that puts you in an excellent spot to win the business. So great takeaways there from the Zillow report about the home buyer trends for 2024. So where we're going to end, we're going to look at the 10-year and see how the 10 years doing and where the 30 years coming in. Bobby, if you could put up the chart, please. As of this morning, 9:51, we're seeing the 10-year come in at 4.051%. That's up 0.025 from yesterday. So that's where the 10 years coming in. And where we're seeing the 30-year come in from Mortgage News Daily. We're seeing 30-year rates are coming in today at 6.62%. I'm clear you're going to be seeing rates trend around this number for a while. I'd be looking at rates on a daily basis if you want to be the knowledge broker in your market. Very simple. So again, that's what we got for today's hot sheet. Check out BAMX. Use the code TOM for 10% off. A lot of great data there to help you convert more clients. I'll see you next time on the hot sheet.